On a sunny afternoon, the boy came home from school as usual and rode his bike quickly through the woods. Just as he was passing a path, an invisible force suddenly pushed him off his bike. Since then, the boy has been nowhere to be seen, and this is the second case of disappearance in recent times. Where does this mysterious power come from? Where were the children taken? Hello everyone, and welcome to the Movie Commentary channel. Today I bring you an American thriller and suspense film I See You. The protagonist, Gray, originally had a happy family of 3, but lately the atmosphere at home has been extremely tense. The son was reluctant to talk to his mother, and Gray often slept alone in the living room. When his son asked him why, he said it was too late to watch TV last night. That morning, Gray noticed that a picture on the wall was missing, and he thought it was taken by his family, so he didn't pay much attention to it. When he returned to his room, his wife, who was at work, called and said she wanted to talk to him. As soon as he heard his wife's voice, Gray became furious and threw his phone out in anger. Unexpectedly, the phone accidentally smashed the glass. Gray looked out and stumbled upon a water glass on the roof. He walked around the attic and found a few cigarette butts in the glasses. Recently, there has been too many worries at home. Maybe my son is smoking to relieve anxiety. The scene cuts to the police station, where Gray is called to the office by his boss. It turns out that Gray is a police officer, and a boy recently disappeared near the park. And this is the second case of disappearance in recent times. Although the family conditions of the 2 children are very good, they did not receive extortion calls from the kidnappers. The boss gives the case to Gray and tells him to find out what the children are. Later, Gray and his colleague Dake went to the scene of the crime and found that the boy's bicycle had fallen into a creek on the side of the road. This makes the search difficult, as even if there are clues, they may have been swept away by the stream. Just when everyone was at a loss, the searchers found a green dagger on the hillside, and Dakin suddenly became nervous. 15 years ago, he took a child kidnapper with his own hands, and every time he committed a crime, he left a green dagger at the scene. But so many years have passed, and that prisoner is serving a prison sentence. How can he commit the crime again? On the other side, his wife, Harper Wade's magicians, came home from work. When he came to the kitchen, he found that the cutlery in the drawer was missing. There was a strange sound upstairs. The husband and son had not returned. Could it be that there was a thief in the house? Harper cautiously went upstairs and found that there was indeed a strange man in the room. Harper was relieved to explain that she had received a call from her husband to fix the windows and pull out a repair order. But the question is, who let him in? The worker said it was your daughter who let him in, and he said she seemed very polite. Harper was even more puzzled. She didn't remember having such a daughter. At dinner, she mentioned it to her son, but he was not interested. He only cared about why his mother had betrayed the family. It turns out that Harper had had an affair, and although she quickly regretted it, the rift caused was not so easy to repair. When I was cleaning up the dishes and chopsticks after dinner, the TV in the living room suddenly turned on, and the volume kept increasing. Harper was startled and quickly turned down the volume with the remote control. The only remote control in the house is in her hand. Could it be that the electrical appliances are malfunctioning? Just then foiled Gray's magicians. His Gray back? His wife told him about the strange things that had happened today. He suspected that the repairman had stolen the family's knives and forks, and said something inexplicable, saying that a girl had opened the door for him, and that there was no girl in the house. Gray didn't bother to listen to this nonsense, and just ignored it. The wife went back to her room, but when she went upstairs, she noticed that another photo was missing from the wall. Gray still didn't think much of it, and the son was full of hatred for his mother, perhaps because he had taken the heart-addicting photos. Back in his room, Gray took a sleeping pill and prepared to rest. But as soon as he turned around, he saw the house's hamster running out. He chased the hamster into the closet. However, I've erased magicians as soon as I climbed in and Aslimed in. The wardrobe door was locked. Through the crack in the door, Gray saw a man standing outside the door. He thought his son was joking, so he asked him to open the door, but the man didn't respond. Just as Gray was about to lose control, Harper opened the closet door with a puzzled expression. She only came in when she heard a voice. Gray asks where his son has gone, and Harper says he went out after eating. This made him instantly confused. His wife would not engage in such a prank. Who locked him inside? In the middle of the night, Gray's quilt suddenly slipped off his body, as if an invisible force was pulling it down. When he woke up in the morning, he had inexplicably wet the bed. Gray thought it was just because he had been too tired lately, so he threw the sheets in the washing machine and went to work. The child kidnapper from years ago is still serving his sentence in prison, so his boss speculates that it was a copycat crime. Two children escaped from the kidnappers, and their boss asked Gray and Dakin to pay them a visit, and maybe they could find some clues. The two followed the address to the first child's home. Despite the passage of many years, the boy has not yet come out of the psychological shadows and even suffered from severe depression. Whenever a stranger visited, he would hide in his room and not dare to come out, and he could not ask for any information at all. The two could only hope for another child, but the man had already moved away, and they ended up with nothing. On the other hand, Harper's lover suddenly comes to the door. He hadn't been able to contact Harper lately and couldn't stand the wait, so he came to visit. The son is still at home. Harper must not let him in the door. Just as the two were arguing, suddenly a water glass hit the lover's head, and the attic window was open. Harper's first reaction was that her son had done it, and seeing that the other party was so badly injured, she couldn't bear to drive him away, so she temporarily placed him in the basement. After sending her son to school, she took her lover to the hospital. However, as soon as the words ended, the sound of music came from upstairs. Harper hurriedly went up to check and found that someone had turned on the gramophone, but his son firmly denied it. He said he was washing up and had never touched the gramophone. When he went out, Harper deliberately induced his son to tell the truth. Even if her son made a mistake, she would not blame him. But the son was confused and couldn't understand his mother's words at all. If it wasn't for his son, how could that water cup fall out of thin air? The scene cuts to the basement, where the lover was looking for some gauze to bandage the wound. However, while he was not paying attention, someone behind him suddenly hit him on the head with a baseball bat. On the other hand, Gray and Dakin also have new discoveries. They found a broken rope from the trees at the scene of the crime, apparently without the presence of a mysterious power. The boy fell down after hitting this rope, so who is the murderer? What was the purpose of his kidnapping? After dropping off his son at school, Harper hurried home. However, when he reached the basement, he found that his lover had stopped breathing. Harper panicked, and it wasn't until her husband came home from work that she trembled and told the truth. Gray was furious, because he felt that it meant that the two were secretly meeting at home behind his back. But now was not the time to be jealous. He just wanted to know what was really going on. Harper told the story when it happened. She didn't call an ambulance at the time because she always thought that her lover was injured by her son. If the son is really involved in this matter, what awaits him will be imprisonment. Gray was well aware of the seriousness of the matter, and after some weighing, he decided to dispose of the body and pretend that nothing had happened. The two drove to the outskirts, found a random and vacant lot, and buried the body. On the other hand, as soon as the son got home, he heard a noise downstairs. He went to the bathroom and found the family's missing cutlery in the washing machine. Parents are not at home. Who would do such a boring thing? Upon returning to the room, a stranger messaged him and asked if he knew what a frog house was. The son checks unrelated videos on the internet and found that the frog house was living in the owner's house without the owner's knowledge, and the son instantly felt a chill in his back. And before he could figure out the situation, a man wearing a mask appeared behind him. After some time, Gray and his wife returned home. But as soon as he breathed a sigh of relief, his wife's screams could be heard in the bathroom. Gray hurried over and found his son tied up in the bathtub with white eyes and unconscious. There was also a green dagger next to it. Gray understands what this means, so he asks Harper to take his son to the hospital and stay with the killer himself. However, when he first arrived in the living room, the masked man appeared with an axe, rushed out from behind. Who is this mysterious man? What is the deep hatred between him and Gray? It all started a few days ago. The girl's name is Allison. She is a professional frog dweller, and she often wanders around. She lived in various households, and as soon as her owner noticed something unusual, she would leave immediately. On this day, he and his companion Alex set their sights on Gray's house. Taking advantage of Gray's drive away, the two sneak in. The two of them were amazed by the decor of Gray's home, which was more luxurious than anywhere they had stayed before. But as long as the owner is at home, this is not their territory, and they can only hide in the attic where few people will go. At 2 o'clock in the morning, Alice wakes up from her sleep, looks out the window and finds Alex smoking on the eaves, which is very dangerous. If the owner finds out, the two will be arrested and jailed. So he told Alec to hurry back. Alec ostensibly agreed, but when Alice fell asleep, he boldly wandered around the house. Fortunately, the family slept soundly and did not notice his whereabouts. Early the next morning, Alec still wanted to smoke by the window. It turned out that it was the first time for him to sneak into someone's home, and it was very exciting. But when he came in, he found that life here was far more boring than he had imagined. Alice hurriedly snatched the cigarette from Alec's hand. He didn't want to be discovered by triggering the smoke detector. After the family went out, Alice hid the two of their luggage in the basement instead of putting it in the attic. Maybe he'll be found out at some point. And Alec isn't idle. He takes the photos on the wall and hacks the TV in the living room with software. Harper discovers that the TV is turned on for no apparent reason, and that it is Alec who is playing tricks on the scenes. Alec, unlike Alice, thinks it would be more fun to cause trouble for the family and make them scared. While the two were chatting, there is a sudden knock on the door of a maintenance worker. Alec tells Alice to open the door, and no one recognizes him anyway. No wonder the maintenance union said it was a girl who opened the door for him. It turned out that the girl was Alice. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Alec found Gray's sleeping pills in the bathroom and seemed to think of something. So he crushed to pieces and put them in Alice's water glass. At night, Alice slept very deeply. This means that Alec can do whatever he wants. He infiltrates Gray's room and locks him in a closet with a coat hook while Gray chases the hamster. Harper, who heard the shouting, immediately rushed in, and it was too late to go back, so Alec had to hide under the bed for the time being. In the middle of the night, he ripped off Gray's quilt and poured a soak of urine on Gray. Gray was used to taking sleeping pills, so he didn't notice it at all. As soon as Alice woke up the next day, she saw Alec sitting on the roof smoking a cigarette. The position was easy to spot, and he had done so more than once. Alice wondered what he was thinking. Alec's expression showed a hint of exhaustion, but he said he hadn't had enough fun. However, their principle is not to play tricks on innocent people. After Alice's repeated pleas, Alec finally agreed to return to the attic. He habitually placed the water cup on the eaves, but the water cup accidentally fell off. Even more unexpectedly, the water glass hit Harper's lover right on the head. Although they were not discovered at the time, the two will eventually be exposed if they continue like this. Therefore, Alice decided to leave immediately. Their luggage was still in the basement though. Fortunately, Harper was busy sending his son to school, and as soon as the two left Alice's place, they hurried to the basement. But what he didn't expect was that Harper had already placed his injured lover here. Luckily, he had his back to the door, so he wasn't spotted. Alice hid in the corner, at a glass corner, looking for a chance to take out her backpack. However, at this moment, someone suddenly kills the lover with a baseball bat, and this person is none other than his rival Gray. Gray drove away after committing the crime, all while his wife was sending her son to school, so she had no idea it was murder. Altus didn't want to get involved in this matter, so she packed her bags and prepared to leave. But as soon as he reached the door, he heard Hopper returning to the basement. Alice continued to hide, but what happened next surprised him. Apparently Gray was the one who killed him, but when he got home, he pretended to be very shocked and claimed to have disposed of the body while he was worried about his son. Getting rid of the rival in love and saving his wife is simply a double win. But all this has nothing to do with Alice. He just wants to get out of this place as soon as possible. While the couple disposed of the body, Alice returned to her room, intending to leave with Alec. But what he didn't expect was that Alec actually stunned Gray's son and tied him up. The succession of murders and kidnappings shocked Alice, so he decided to call the police. Alec does not allow him to sabotage his plans. During the fight, Alice accidentally hit the wall and passed out. Things are getting more and more uncontrollable, and Alec doesn't want to stay long. So he ties Gray's son to the bathtub and puts a green dagger next to him. After taking care of all this, Alec put Alice in the van and prepared to leave. However, it just so happened that Gray and his wife had just returned home after disposing of the body, and the car could not leave immediately, so Alec had to hide for the time being. Harper then took his son to the hospital, while Gray left in a van. But he didn't know that Alice was lying in the trunk of his van at this time. The bumpy car quickly woke Alice up. When he saw that the driver was Gray, he was so frightened that he didn't dare to come out. He cautiously searched for the tools available to him. In addition to the baseball bat he used to knock his lover to death, he found a school uniform and several green daggers in his bag. Subsequently, the child abduction case attracted a lot of attention. Is it related to Gray? After some time, the car stopped on a country road. Taking advantage of Gray's exit from the car, Alice hurriedly called the police, saying that she had discovered the location of the kidnapper. But he didn't know Gray's name, and he couldn't tell where he was. To make matters worse, his call to the police was quickly cut off due to signal problems. At this moment, Alice noticed an RV with lights on not far ahead. How can such a wilderness be inhabited? After confirming that there was no one in the RV, Alice cautiously walked in. In one corner of the RV there are two locked lockers with children who have gone missing. They begged Alice to get them out. The kidnappers are digging a pit, and they're afraid they won't survive tonight. Just as Alice was about to come to the rescue, Grace suddenly appeared and knocked him unconscious with a plastic bag. Gray then puts Alice in the trunk. Through the video camera he carried with him, Gray discovered the presence of Frog Dweller. Now that they know his identity, they can't let them leave alive. Upon returning home, Gray shot and killed Alice. Later, as Nate, he took out another pistol and put it in Alice's hand, thus camouflaging the scene where Alice broke into the house and was killed by himself. At this time, Alec is still hiding in the garage. When he heard the gunshots, he knew what was going on, so he grabbed an axe and prepared to fight Gray. Even though he's sneaking in from the shadows, he doesn't stand a chance against the experienced Gray. After a few rounds, Alec was knocked unconscious. Gray then stabbed himself in the shoulder with a knife, intending to create the illusion of self-defense again. However, when Gray turned around, he found Alec pointing a pistol at him. It turns out that Alec was just pretending to be unconscious and took the opportunity to pick up Gray's gun. Gray didn't panic at all, because he had already written the script for Alec. Recently, the police are investigating a case of missing boys, and Alec is the suspect in the kidnapping of the two children. Now his actions are threatening the investigation of the case. At first, Alec didn't say a word, just walked forward silently. When the moonlight shone on Alec's face, Gray immediately recognized him. It turns out that Alec is one of the children who escaped from the kidnappers 15 years ago. and Gray is the kidnapper back then. It's no wonder that Alec has behaved strangely since he came to this house, and no wonder he would risk kidnapping Gray's son. Everything he did was to get revenge for what happened back then. Gray wanted to continue quibbling, but Alec didn't give him a chance at all, and shot him in the chest. Just then, Dakin also rushed over. After receiving Alice's report, Dakin wanted to tell Gray the news, but he happened to witness the scene of Gray being shot. Such a blatant attack on the police. Dakin shot and subdued Alec without thinking. Before fainting, Alec called out Dakin's name. It turned out that Dakin had already asked him about it 15 years ago. So when hearing this title, Dakin vaguely guessed something. After some searching, Dakin found the baseball bat, the green dagger, and the missing children's school uniform in Gray's trunk, and navigated the two kidnapped children through the van's navigation. At this point, a kidnapping case, which had been sealed for years, was finally revealed. This is the end of the story. The double reversal of the ending still has a strong impact. The police who tracked down the kidnappers turned out to be the real kidnappers. After learning this truth, all the things Alec did at Gray's house were also explained. From the moment he saw the pictures on the wall, he knew that Gray was the one who had kidnapped him 15 years ago. He often sits on the roof and smokes, but in fact, he is entangled in struggling in his heart. He wants to take revenge on Gray, but he can't do it, so he can only vent his inner dissatisfaction through pranks. For example, he kept turning on the TV just to let Harper see the news inside. 2 more child abductions have recently been committed as a way to suggest that her husband is the real culprit. In another example, Alec stunned Gray's son and tied him up in the bathtub with a green dagger next to him. Alec just wants Gray to experience what it's like for his son to be kidnapped. However, Gray took a more drastic action, and thinking that his identity was exposed, he immediately went to the suburbs to prepare to kill people and destroy evidence. As can be seen from Gray's intrigues, he is an extremely thoughtful man. 15 years ago, he began kidnapping children, and things gradually got bigger and bigger. To divert attention, he blamed the crime on an innocent man who was still serving his sentence in prison. That morning, the Tist magicians, the boss approached Gray and Dakin to inform them that the kidnappers in the prison had learned of the recent disappearance of the child and were contacting a lawyer to prepare an appeal. At the time, I thought he wanted to take the opportunity to get away with the crime, but now it seems that of course he wants to appeal, because he himself has been wronged. 15 years later, Gray still wants to revert to his old plan and frame Alec as the child's kidnapper. It's just that Alec never gave him a chance again and shot him through the chest. The overall rhythm of the film is well controlled, and the audience is immersed in a tense and thrilling atmosphere for the first 40 minutes. The eerie soundtrack and empty mansions always make it feel like there's something dangerous lurking in the shadows. In the middle of the film, the truth is gradually revealed. There is no mysterious power. There is no ghost theory. Everything is the work of the 2 frog dwellers. But Alec in it behaves abnormally and always does something puzzling. It wasn't until the ending was revealed that people understood that what he did was actually venting the hatred that had been suppressed for 15 years. Gray always felt like he had planned it seamlessly. As a chief police detective in charge of child abduction cases, he can manipulate the course of the case at will. But he would never have expected that good and evil would eventually be rewarded, and no matter how far he escaped, he would eventually be unable to escape the cycle of cause and effect, and the evil deeds committed by a person would eventually come back to him. Well, that's all for today's story. If you like my explanation, please remember to like, comment and share. Your support is my greatest encouragement.